Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for another CTC software webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about some more of our survey productivity tools, and in particular, point file converter. So our survey productivity tools are part of the SIM project suite of tools. They're intended for the everyday Civil 3D users creating design and production drawings, and will work in the last 4 versions of Civil 3D, now back to 2020 with the release of 2024 and CTC Software's version 24.0. So with that, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them into the questions panel, and we'll get to them at the end of the webinar. My name is Tony Crick. I'm the Civil Product Manager here at CTC Software. So let's talk about point file converter. Okay. Just thought I might have some mic issues there. So point file converter. Why point file converter? It's part of our survey, part of the project suite of tools, as you can see from the slide there. We've done some webinars on those before, and now I'm just going to break down point file converter. So you see feature line to alignment there and survey sweeper as well. Those are free tools. If you download our trial version, you will get those in perpetuity. Point file converter is part of the suite, and it's not a Civil 3D tool. It's a standalone, so it doesn't take up a license. It just works outside of Civil 3D. So what does it do? Well, it automates tedious tasks, eliminates a lot of point file editing. And you can convert one survey coding standard to another from your company to an outside vendor, or from your vendor or DOT or city or wherever it is to your standards. And it applies to all the typical survey point file formats: CSV, TXT, ASCII, etc. Oops, did I miss one there? Okay, so what it helps you do is it helps you match your line work codes and description key sets with the points, your file points. So if you get something from an outside vendor, you convert them to your points for importation into a drawing to get your line work and stuff like that, which we'll go over here in a little bit. There's a simple translation interface, and it will report and track your errors too, if you choose to do so. And it's pretty easy to create, and once they're created, you can save them and update them if things change. So there's no need to waste time editing manually, going through any of the native ways of doing it, point by point, that kind of thing. And it can also be used, it's a point file format, so it can be used Civil 3D, MicroStation, Trimble, etc. And it will also translate point files from outside of your organization. So we can create sort of templates or Excel files to be used for different conversions. Like I said, once you make one, you have it. If you're converting from maybe a firm that you work with consistently, that has their way of shooting things, or DOT standards or city standards, county standards, what have you. And it makes the survey crews happy too. So you can shoot with one coding standard, and that saves the crews time and confusion, and will create more consistent point files across multiple field crews and users too, by the way. So with that, let's take a look at how point file converter works. Oh, you're not seeing the slides again? Thank you for letting me know. Okay, let me jump back. Okay, let me jump back here to, okay, here's the lead one, survey productivity tools. I'll just basically start over here. So survey productivity tools, and we're talking about point file converter. I'm Tony Crick, the civil product manager here at CTC. So they're part of the SIM project suite of tools, as I mentioned before, intended for everyday users. Hopefully you're seeing these now. So it lives on with our survey group. The two in light green are the free tools. If you download those, you will get those for free if you're using the trial version. So again, it matches line work codes and description key sets, simple translation interface, and tracks errors. Easy to create and update. No need to waste time editing manually. Used for Civil 3D, MicroStation, Trimble, etc. We can translate point files from outside of your organization and create templates or Excel files to be used for different entities. As stated before, DOT, city, county standards, whatever. And your survey crews then will only need to use one set of coding in the field, which will save time and confusion and get you more consistent point files. So now let's look at point file converter. Okay, so here in this scenario, we got a point file from outside of the organization. Maybe they came and shot it. Maybe they just gave you the drawing file. Let me get this background out of the way for a second. Oh, hang on. So you receive something like this from an outside entity. Comes in pretty good. They gave you some tree symbols and some other things, but it just doesn't work. Some of the coding isn't the same. So if you were to import it, you would not get your line codes and everything else, which we can see that they have shot. So we've got some line coding work there that would come in. Some other things around here that would work. Building lines, for example. So there's a close right there. So how would we get this to natively to match our point codes? Well, there's a number of ways to do it. We can come here, we can edit these points right here, kind of manually, one by one. Really a tedious process. We can also do it down here, as AutoCAD is wont to do. They give you many different ways to edit them, but none of them are really, easy to use, smooth, quick, whatever. And maybe you just want to live with it, but you don't have to. So we know that we've got our own description key coding set in here that we need to use to make our line work, everything come in. So again, if you wanted to edit your own code right here manually, you could. We have another tool in our manager suite where we can export our description keys right out. So if you were going to try to make one of these from scratch and you wanted to, and you got a description key set, let's say, and you wanted to match that, well, you could use this tool just to export it. And I will put this here in my Excel folder, call it CTC, save it out. Ask, do I want to replace the one that was there? Yes, open it. So what you get is something that looks like this right here. Simple Excel interface, and from here we could go ahead and we could start to make our new point code set to match. So if you wanted to just copy this over, create another sheet, you could paste them in right there. We can get rid of those asterisks because we might want to use these codes for our field crews. So we can just replace those easy enough and then just start with adding our descriptions to them. So that takes that away. And again, having this here like this is kind of handy if you don't know what the codes these are, if they come from somewhere else, but you want to match them. You can switch back and forth like this. So ARV, what is that? Well, it's on water. So it's probably a air release valve. And you can just go right down the list like that. BC, some of these are probably self-explanatory, that curve. And this, the reason I might do this is to create what I call a cheat sheet of sorts for your coding. If you're going to update your code or convert them, so I'll just enter a few here. I'm not even going to really move those. But so you just do something like that, and then I have these converter files here. And here's my cheat sheet of multi-codes, as I mentioned. So here I copied a bunch of those over already prior to this. So if you just made them here, and you could certainly do the whole list. We're not going to spend time on that today. But then you just enter, say if this was from this point file here, firm A, let's say, and you can keep a running kind of list going here to make it easy to then cut and paste into one of the translators. So everything matches up. And from here, it's just a matter of, putting it in the right order, because they will want to be across from each other when you're using point file converter. So let's take a look at point file converter. And like I said, it operates outside of, came on my other screen, outside of Civil 3D. So it's independent, which means you can leave it up all the time, keep it open and running while you're making your edits. So here we have where we're going to get our translation file from. You can set these paths. If you're in a larger organization, maybe you have these in a central location on the network. We also have this sample file right here to kind of get you jump started. And it looks just like this out of the box. And these orders need to remain the same, but you can change these headers to anything you like. We'll show you that here in a couple minutes. So we've got the old code, what the new code is going to be, and flip-flop those however you see fit. So if you had prefixes, same scenario. Suffixes, this will take care of some of your line work coding. So if you have back of curb 1, 2, 3, for example, for different back of curbs or edge of pavement, whatever. And if you have code delimiters, they're right here. And if you don't, just don't worry about it. And if it's a space, you can do that. And if they're using escape codes too for multi-coding, that's right here if you want to enter that. Otherwise, you can just leave that as it is. And it comes with this handy little kind of instruction guide right here. And if you follow this, just like it says, you'll find it very easy to create a new point file. So I'm going to close that. And we'll take a look around here. So column 5 is what we want to convert. And that will be from the Excel file. I'll show you that in a second here. We have some other settings down here. How do you want to save it? Tab, comma delimited, so CSV. You can always change them. Save to the same location or put it somewhere else. So if you have project files, somewhere you want to put them here, or if you're working on a project, maybe you want to save them there. We also have down here, you can add a suffix to the point file. So if they're in the same place, you can kind of differentiate from what they are. And this checkbox here reports a code, any violations, any errors that might be in there, and we'll see that here in a second. So let me close this. We'll kind of start from scratch here. So if you got this point file, you needed to export it. Okay, whatever formats are in your DWG, your template, whatever you're using, they'll show up here. So in this case, I'm going to use this one with extra for some of the structures that were shot here with inverts and so on here. And it's pretty common to use those kind of things. So this is just a Civil 3D thing. So we're just going to export these out. Make sure they're going in the right place. Okay. So we'll call this the same as the drawing name, 8101. Okay, so with that, we can go get that point file. Why it didn't go? Oh, I didn't fix that. I know what I did. Scratch that. Let me get that out of there. Let's do that again. Some of you probably saw that. I did that incorrectly. So let's just go export them again. Right here. Missed that setting. Oh, not TXT, I want CSV. There we go. My file name, again, 8101. That's why I didn't get it before. Site. Okay. Okay, so I'll open that up. And so here's the point file now, and it doesn't match what we want. I'm just going to go ahead and close that guy up. So we can see what our point coding is in here. So we've got ATM, some back of curve shots, lots of back of curve shots, building shots, brake lines, BT probably for bituminous, catch basins, center lines, edge of bits, edge of concretes. So pretty simple, this one. Some ground shots looks like, wall shots. So I've already gone ahead and I've created a translator for it ahead of time here. And again, I made this straight out of the sample. As you can see, it looks just like it. All I did was change some of this stuff here. So I changed the header. So these are the company A point codes. And here's the ones we want to match that match our description key set. So in this case, I would probably, I'd just go ahead and I copy these, and this is what I did. And I would come here and I would load, paste them in right there. Then I'd just go down the list. And I'd start with ATM, come down and back curb, and I'd go through the whole list. Pretty simple. Building, brake line, oops, did I do that wrong column? BT, and so on. Here. Then we can just delete this column. We can do a sort here, stacks them up, and then from there, I would just copy these and go to my converter, and I would paste them in just right here temporarily, and then I would just start moving them to where they fall in line. So you can see that I did some of that work. I didn't do all of them again, because I do want some errors. I do want you to see how that gets reported. So after we've got this created, we can go ahead and close that. And now we don't need this anymore either. I'm not going to save that. So we already exported them. So here's where the magic comes in. We open our, or we go to point file converter. Oh, it was on the other screen. Here we go. Okay, so from here, like I said, so column 5, that's gonna, let me open that point file back up. So by column 5, what we mean there is what it's going to convert. And that this is your typical point number, northing, easting, elevation, and description. And this is what we want to convert, the description right here. And they said we used that other, the one with the format with the invert. You should find in here somewhere. Yeah, right there. So we've got these catch basins were all also shot. So none of that will be affected by the converter, and that will still come in with the point codes when we load them. So let's go back to a point file converter. Okay, so at this point we need to pick our translation file. So if you're already pathed to the right place, this is, we made this one firm A to CTC. Oh, I was going to show you. So column 5 is the 5th one in the row. So point number, northing, easting, elevation, description. So that's the 5th column is what it's going to convert. If you wanted to do it another way, you sure could if you had, for some reason, point codes first. So from here, we just go and we get the file we want to convert. Which is this one. And we could do multiples too here. If you had, in this case, if 2 different crews, 2 different days, what have you. So we're just going to do the one right there today. And so it's going to save to the same location. Again, you could save it to somewhere else if you wanted to, if you had a network or some other thing. And I'm just going to add my initials here so we know who did it, who converted it. I'm going to leave that checked on so we can see what happens there. And you hit apply. And here's the error report. So here's what it found in the errors that it didn't know. So 18, the number 24, let's see, OC. Oh, so on curve, that's a, I must not have had my line coding. I should have showed you that too. Let's go back. I'll show you that real quick. In the translator too, it will take your line coding as well. So you come down here to the bottom. So in this case, they're all the same, but if they use something different, and they did, as a matter of fact, the OC, and I said POC, which I didn't. So we know it still needs some cleanup. Kind of again, a little bit of an iterative process, but it shows you what might need to be cleaned up. So that apparently we would want to have that. It looks like a FO, couple I skipped. Looks like some tree stuff. Other this just coding looks like for curbing, and we didn't have an ATM at all to match. So we can also save this out so we can compare it. If we want to fix that, I'll just save it right there. I'll just call it error report. So that's there now. We can see it right here. So we have, here's what you get with it. So again, then you can pour through this compared to your point file and fix the converter however you need to fix it to make it work. So that's what we mean by you can use these sort of like in a template format. So once you get this stuff ironed out the first time and you're good to go, then that won't occur again. But always you can report to see what's happening. So we'll go ahead and we'll close that, and the process is done. And so this doesn't shut down because it's not a Civil 3D thing. So we can come to point files, and here's our adjusted point file right here. So some of these we probably can see right off the bat what's changed, what hasn't. So some of these, I think BC was for back a curve. Some of the other things, here's those, some of those things that were missing from the point. Here's your OC code. So edge of concrete on curve, yeah, that was missed. So a few things there, a few things to clean up. But at this point, it's good enough to bring in and check. Just make sure our line work and everything is working correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and just close this out. And from here, we're ready to import and see our line work. So I already got my databases all set up and ready to go. You probably would have one too. We want to match this figure prefix database and our line code set. So from here, I can just go ahead and do the normal import of the survey. And if all goes right, see, I want that one, yep. Then we should see our line work. So pretty easy to do that, pretty quickly done. And again, flipping back and forth so you can do all your work in this drawing. And then if you need to send the point file back or what have you, you can convert it the other way. So once you're all set up and everything's there, line code or figure codes, your line work code set, I'm not going to bring the points in for this one. We just really want to make sure that the line stuff is working to see what other edits might be done. And there we go. Now we have line work. So the building's got filled in. Everything really looks pretty good. Any glaring errors? I don't really see any right off the bat. So then at that point, oh, you have one here, possibly, yeah, this curve looks like it's probably backwards. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, you get the idea here, how quickly we could convert and make it fit to our standards. And these are just lines at this point. They're not survey. Oh, they have figures. Okay, they did pick that up. Okay, I wasn't sure since I didn't import the points, but so we got the figures, everything is good there. And if you did see, you know, some of this other stuff wasn't right, you had to edit some points. Something might be wonky there, yeah. So we would have to do some small editing here, and that's where the other tools come into play, a survey sweeper, for example, to get them out of the database for cleaning up. Why that jumped over there. But that kind of thing. So that's all I really wanted to show you today. In conclusion, point file converter. Let me go back to my slideshow here. So point file converter, part of the SIM project suite of tools. We also have the SIM management suite too. They're separate, which I showed you a little bit of over there with the description key, some other handy survey tools. And if you don't have it, you want to get it or you want information, you can go to ctcsoftware.com. If you have any ideas or help, you can also contact our support line, or you can contact your reseller if you want to get this. So with that, thank you for joining me today. And I appreciate those of you who let me know that I had a little misstep at the beginning. So thank you again for coming and have a great day.